welcome Caroline Wilson. Caro, the story you wrote in The Age on Saturday about Cyril Rioli continues, and we're going to have a good look at it tonight. But some more news tonight, fresh news.
Well, there's been a lot of reaction today, Ed, ongoing to the Cyril Rioli story. Let's have a listen to two leaders of the game, Gillon McLachlan, followed by former Hawthorn captain Luke Hodge.
I think that they are working through the issue and they'll reach their own conclusions on that. But what, as I said, is the priority is the cultural safety of the Indigenous players at the club now, and certainly those in the recent past that this report's talked to.
What I found out was there was a senior player there and they spoke through it. The senior player got the two players together, obviously discussed what was said and what happened. There was an apology made. Apology was accepted, and then they sort of went on with the rest of their trip and went from there. And I sort of asked the senior player, should that come back to us? And he clearly said, well, it was resolved in the three players that were involved in the discussion. They resolved it. There was an apology. The apology was accepted, and then they moved on.
Absolutely no doubt it should have gone to the leadership group, Ed. And now, Ed, Jeff Kennett has written a letter to members today.
He has. This has come out today. Jeff Kennett being absolutely emphatic that he'll take this slowly and have a deep dive. But here's what he wrote today. We've taken those claims seriously and are conducting further inquiries to see if there might have been other incidents affecting our First Nations or past First Nations players. I can assure you the board and administration will not shirk our responsibility to work through these matters. Some will demand immediate answers and actions, but given how important these matters are, the best response is a measured and responsible one. We will firstly seek to establish the facts before working through the best way of responding to the matters that require addressing. We all want Cyril back with us at Hawthorn. I hope that we can work through the hurt he feels and make him feel welcome and safe in the brown and gold family again.
Ed, I can tell you that Gillon McLachlan, whose response I felt was a little insipid, I've got to say today, hasn't been strong. Behind the scenes, he has reached out through a third party to the player who was racially vilified on that end-of-season trip, the player that Luke Hodge addresses today. I'm not sure whether he's spoken to him directly, but he has reached out to him. Matthew Stokes, who worked for the AFL up until 3 years ago, the 200 gamer, two-time Geelong Premiership player, is really disappointed in the AFL's response to this. He's written a strong piece in The Age tonight. Why haven't we... What I haven't heard of the leaders at the AFL declaring loudly that what happened at Hawthorn during Rioli's career was completely unacceptable, as AFL CEO Gillon McLachlan rightly did when audio of former Fox Sports reporter Tom Morris's misogynistic comments came to light. He goes on to say, Ed, if this is swept under the carpet, then I don't want to hear platitudes around Sir Doug Nicholls' round. I don't want to hear people saying how deadly the jumpers look or hear about Buddy just kicking 1,000 goals. This is a very powerful piece from someone who worked at the AFL and up until only months ago worked as a people person for the Geelong Football Club. So a lot of people are very unhappy about this story. A lot of Hawthorn people are very unhappy, feel they've been unfairly portrayed. I think they need to look a lot more deeply into this. We're going to talk about it in the next segment. But Ed, before we move on, it's over a year now since you stood aside, since you were forced to step down early as president of Collingwood.
I wasn't forced, I resigned.
After the release of the Do Better report, do you now feel hardly done by that you were the one forced to carry the can for what is an AFL-wide issue?
No, I'll never say anyone was hardly done by in this situation, other than Indigenous players and Indigenous peoples over many generations. So there's no looking back. What I like to do in this is look forward now and see that the implementation of the Do Better report seems to have been widely accepted now. And maybe as we talk to Tanya Hosh, who's coming up later in the show, rather than go through all the hurt of a lot of people, club by club, maybe people should look at the Do Better report and say whether or not there's some relevance there for everybody, not just at the AFL, not just at AFL clubs.
Should Jeff Kennett do what you did?
Oh, no, I'm not going to get into any of that. That's got nothing to do with me. And as I said, I'm not looking for any justification. What we did, as I said, the Do Better report seems to be well accepted, and there's lessons and learnings from all these things. And we'll talk to Tanya Hosh, who is the Executive General Manager of Inclusion and Social Policy at the AFL. She's the South Australian of the Year. She's well versed in all these matters. We need to find out what we need to do all together to get a resolution, because we don't want to be losing players like Cyril. And we'll have a grab from Cyril that I did with him some 10 years ago, which adds a little bit of light to the whole situation as well.
Well, this goes back to 2013, and I know Jeff's letter addressed Cyril Rioli, but it seems deeper than that. And on the back of Collingwood, and you commissioned the report and whatever happened, is there a head in the sand element to AFL clubs? Now, Hawthorn knew this was bubbling around. We're talking since 13, and with Cyril, with his record and what he was head in the sand. It was always, and it's great it's come to light. I think there'll be a number of other AFL clubs that maybe need to get proactive, and it's your point with Tanya. Let's get proactive and move forward and not wait and have it raised through a newspaper. Let's clubs get proactive and dive in.
It took the Riolis to go to Caroline Wilson to really get to where they wanted to get to, which has been an amazing 4 or 5 days, Caro, since your article.